Voice. KWTN 100.9 FM. Allen, Nebraska. The official radio station of the Winnebago Tribe.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. We are glad to be back with another great episode of Indigenous Voice here. We hope our listeners and viewers are doing well today. We have some amazing conversations and some topics to cover today. Just glad to be here for episode 7 of Indigenous Voice. As always, I'm Sandy Macky Scott. I am one of the co-hosts here for this amazing podcast here. And I will give an introduction to my co-host here.
Hello, I am Shailece Porter. I am Macky's co-host on the podcast.
Yeah, so thanks for being here. Our special guest will do his introductions here in a bit, but just want to share for our new viewers and listeners a rundown of our show. So usually we have an introduction of who our speakers are going to be, or speakers that are here, and just kind of share who they are, where they work, and where they come from, and just some of the work they're doing. And then we usually go into the perspective on mental health. We ask our guests here to kind of share their thoughts of mental health and what that looks like for them, or maybe how they're incorporating that into their life, or what that looked like for them growing up. And so then next we'll go into our topic about alcohol and sobriety. And so with episode 7, we really wanted to focus on sobriety and overcoming alcohol and things like that, and just why sobriety is important and the supports that came with that. And so we have amazing guests here to kind of speak more on that and their insights and perspective on that. And we definitely pulled that from the national oh my gosh, the National Awareness Month for April is aimed for alcohol awareness and the effects that it has on the body and things like that too. So we definitely try to align these with the mental health awareness topics throughout the year there. And so then we will end with just some closing remarks after that and go from there. But that's kind of what our show is going to look like. I'm just happy to be here today and have another amazing episode. And as always, if you're interested in being a part of our podcast here, feel free to reach out to us. We're always wanting more speakers and more youth and community members come in and talk about these amazing topics too. And so we'll move on to our introductions here. We will start with our Native Youth guest here, and then we'll go into our special guests, our community guests.
Hello, my name is Kylie Merrick. I am from the Omaha tribe, and I am a sophomore at Nebraska Indian Community College.
Nice. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Felicia Masquat, and I am Winnebago. I work at under the Winnebago Public Health Department. I am the Health Promotions and Educational Director.
Nice.
I'm also an alumni from Little Priest Tribal College and Wayne State College.
Nice. Welcome, both of you. I'm glad to have you both here for this amazing podcast and some good conversations. And so we will begin with the first section here with the perspectives on mental health. So Kylie, you kind of shared with that. You kind of shared that before, and I don't know. Like, do you want to add anything else to your previous answer? I think you talked about this last episode. Like, what are your thoughts on mental health, or any kind of idea on that?
No, actually.
Okay, that's fine. If you want to know her insight, go to the previous episode. Well, then we'll move on to Felicia here. Go ahead and share, like, any thoughts on mental health. Like, maybe what was that like for you growing up, or maybe what is your idea on mental health, or how do you incorporate that into your life today? Just getting your perspective on mental health. No right or wrong answer here.
Well, I think mental health, it needs to be something that you work on every day. You know, if you don't have a healthy brain and inside of yourself and your life, that's how your life's going to be. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know that alcohol is a big topic of your mental health. It's not healthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all know that. As a child, I would say I really had a good mental health just with the life that I had, and I was a part of the powwow up until I was 23 years old. So I know that had a lot to do with me being happy and having a healthy mindset, even though I didn't know that at the time. A lot of people don't know this, but I was born in Long Beach, California, and was there until I was 11. So being by the beach and being a part of sports. My mom played softball for many of years, and I mean, there's a lot of people in the community that know that. She played up until she was probably 50. So a big part of it was, you know, physical, mental, even though I didn't really consider that or even know what that was at a young age. And of course, being, you know, proud of being Indigenous, of who I was. So those are, and of course, my grandparents were a part of my life. They really meant the world to me. So I know having a lot of family support, and I know that, you know, we talk about that in the community. It does take a village to raise a child. And I had a lot of really great people in my life, my upbringing, my, you know, Degas, and I had quite a few of those. And then, you know, my Chewy, you know, she was my other mom, obviously. But I think that part right there was a big portion of me having a really good upbringing in mental health. I guess that explains a little bit of it.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad that you shared that. Like I said, there's not a right or wrong answer. We always just try to get our guest perspectives, because a big part of this podcast is to highlight mental health, and there's just so many different aspects and factors that come into that, and it's good to get an idea of what mental health looked like for all of us when we were growing up or through our lives. And we had some Native guest speakers, or Native youth guest speakers, that we just wanted to be honest, and at one point they said, well, I didn't know much about mental health until I got to this age, or until I got older, or mental health wasn't the best for me growing up in my childhood, but now I reflect on that and trying to increase that. So just having those conversations really brings like the reality and the you know, realistic perspective of what our relatives are going through. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, so now that we have that perspective on mental health for our guests here, let's go ahead and go into our main topic here. So we wanted to talk about alcohol and sobriety. And I do just want to put a disclaimer out there for our viewers and listeners too. We will be talking about substance abuse and recovery and sobriety and things like that. So just keep in mind if you have any emotional reactions and things like that. I just want to prepare our viewers and listeners for that as well. And so for our first question here, and this is going to be aimed more for our Native youth here. What are your views on alcohol, or what comes to mind when you think about that?
When I think, well, growing up, I see the impact that alcohol has in like Native communities, and like especially like our families, and I guess I really didn't realize until I've gotten older how like it played a role in a lot of our life when we were younger. And I still see it to this day, but I think just being able to like having that realization and working with youth that are younger than me, I feel like I have like I'm able to like reach out to them, or like I can relate to them. And yeah, and it's like it's hard, like because I have like personal experiences, and it's really tough, like when you're in it, when you're dealing with it. And yeah, I just wish, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people wish, you know, alcohol didn't exist, but it's just what it is. Right. And it's a tough reality.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And like I said, this I know this topic can be really challenging, and you know, especially for Indigenous people, our relatives are really affected by those types of things, and there's also ripples from those from drinking and things like that. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And so you kind of briefly touched on it a little bit, but you know, what kind of impact has alcohol had specifically on Native youth?
I would say it would be like lack of support, especially like because I was very like into sports and like dancing and things, and I would have like peers who were like also interested in that stuff, but you know, their parents or like grandparents, they had like an alcohol addiction, so it was just, you know, in a way like their parents were like choosing that instead of being there for them, like supporting them and trying to get them into the arena, or even just like showing up to their games, or like assemblies at school, or just simple things like just simply showing up for the kids. Like that's one of the things I did notice. And then I also noticed that the impact that it had is that they see like their parent or grandparent doing it, and so that kind of led them into doing it too. So
yeah, that's an unfortunate thing that happens, you know, with you know, alcohol being in the home. And you know, me too, I grew up with exposure to that, and some close relatives, you know, just I remember being younger and seeing those things. And you know, people don't understand, as like young Native youth, they're like literally sponges. They take in the language, the things you talk about, the traditions and customs that you have in your own home. They soak that in and take that with them. And so unfortunately, that's what happens is when they're growing up and, you know, drinking in the home is normalized, that kind of conditions our youth to think, well, you know, someone that I respect, like my Dago, my uncle, my auntie, my Kui, they were doing that, so it must be okay. That's fine, you know, that's just something that's just how it goes. But you know, it comes down to breaking those cycles and overcoming those things. That's the tough part, because sometimes these things are too interwoven and normalized in our communities that when you do start doing good work like that, it gets hard to change those things, because that's a majority is kind of happening, or like I said, it's normalized, and those are hard to change at times. So thanks for sharing that. How has alcohol had an impact on your community? And in this context too, like when we think about community, I know sometimes we just focus more on like our town or like where we live, but also communities can be like even college students. You know what I mean? College students, that could be a community, or Native Americans in general can be a community, or like the Native Americans in Nebraska can be a community. So not just specifically your hometown, but like those types of communities. That's what I mean by community too. But so yeah, what kind of impact has that on your community?
I would definitely say that alcohol has a negative impact, but and it's like sad to see that, you know, there's like a lot of people get into car accidents, or they drink and drive, and like people get DUIs and all those sorts of things. And because of those, I feel like it doesn't make them like less of a person. I just see it as like they're hurting. And so I just wish there is awareness on mental health, but I just wish it was like a lot more awareness on that. So yeah.
Okay. As a Native youth, what support do you think our communities need with overcoming alcohol?
I definitely would, like I just said, like with mental health, like from growing up, I feel like today it's like more like it's becoming normalized to talk about it. To me, when I was dealing with mental health when I was younger, it was kind of like frowned upon in a way. Like, you know, you have everything, you know, why are you feeling the way you feel, whatever. And then, so I would just say that, yeah, definitely more mental health awareness, and like normalizing it, and just like reaching out and letting them know that there's, you know, more to life. And like if you have kids, you know, your kids are they look up to you and essentially grow up to be like whatever way that you pay for them, you know. So like if you're a sober parent, or if you're like in the alcohol addiction, then they kind of, not all but most, have like a rough like upbringing because of that. So
yeah, I like that idea that, you know, when it comes to mental health, it's often stigmatized. Like there's just like I think there's a misconception that you know, mental health's not what it is, but it's definitely involved in everything that we do, from our relationships growing up with our parents and in the kind of environment that we're in, but also just kind of even how we talk about ourselves or our relatives. You know, having negative self-talk versus positive self-talk makes a difference, and just reaffirming ourselves and having those affirmations that we repeat to ourselves, those are shown to have so many different positive impacts on ourselves. And also there's studies shown that when we're practicing our native language, our culture, our customs and traditions, there has been studies shown that it decreases mental health challenges such as anxiety, depression, and things like that. And so you know, these types of things are important, and you know, when we get more connected to our culture and realize that mental health isn't everything to do, it's really gonna you know, benefit us in the long run. But it's just, like you said, educating our relatives on the importance of those and why we should be more aware of mental health and what that means.
I just wanted to add that I know a lot of Indigenous people have a stigma with talking to, you know, the behavioral health or a counselor, and really I believe that it comes from, you know, the boarding school era, that you don't talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it, and that's a big stigma. It is okay to talk about your feelings. It is okay to outreach for help. You know, I'm a big advocate to talking to somebody. I mean, that's their job. Just like everything else, that we have specialists for different things, and we have people that help with, you know, our brain, the way that it works. So I just wanted to add that in there, that it is okay to talk about your feelings and get some help, regardless of what it is that you're going through.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think, you know, that's a big factor of it too, is just you know, not talking about it, and that also is intergenerational trauma from our elders being passed on. You know what I mean? That they weren't able to speak on those things and talk about those things. And so yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay, next question is how has alcohol challenged you as a Native youth growing up?
I would say that alcohol, it started becoming challenging when I was in high school, and I didn't know how to deal with grief. I lost a lot of family members, and yeah, just like I mentioned earlier, like with mental health, like, you know, my family really didn't understand it, and they're like, you know, well, everything's fine, why do you feel the way you do, like, etc. And so like I didn't understand myself or my feelings, and so, you know, I did turn to alcohol, and I just learned that it didn't make anything better for me. It only made things worse, and that I saw that the impact that it was having on me, like obviously my mental health was deteriorating, and then I started to like see it in school. Like my grades were bad, and like with sports too, or was just honestly like losing interest in a lot of things because I didn't know how to handle my feelings. And I just thought, well, alcohol, it, I guess at the time, was like numbing my feelings. And yeah.
Yeah, alcohol is you know, it can amplify those feelings, and you know, it's a depressant in a form where it, like I said, amplifies those feelings of sadness and frustrations and things like that. And so that, you know, plays a big role in how it can affect our lives and things like that. And you know, like I said, just growing up, realizing those things and understanding those, and I think that's really important that you're reflecting on that and overcoming those. And Unfortunately, when we're younger, we don't have control of how our lives are and who we live with and things like that. But now that we're older, we do have that power to reflect on those and heal from those, and then make those changes for our future little relatives too.
I'll chime in on
Okay.
that. How has alcohol challenged you? Because I'm 23, so I would consider myself young. But I think like the challenging part with the alcohol is finding a positive way to be with your friends, like finding something different. And just because you may not be in that realm of where you drink, that it's okay. Like you don't have to just do it because your peers are doing it. You don't have to do it because you've seen so and so do it. But like I think that's a challenging part of the reservation is wanting to fit in, wanting to copy, wanting to do what your peers do. I would say that is a challenge, but and kudos to the ones that actually that do say no, and but in imagining how lonely they could feel,
Right.
because they're not at those parties with their friends, because like I'm 23, like I said, I don't drink. I've had my fair share with it. I've been sober for over a year, I know, since last New Year's of 2022.
Nice.
But so like being in my age, my friend groups, that's something they do. And I, by all means, I don't want to be a hypocrite and like any of that, but we don't really hang out because I'm not in that realm of alcohol as much anymore, so like I know that could be a challenging part of wanting to step away and be different.
Yeah, you hit a really good important point, and that brings a story to mind. But I think that's great that you mentioned that, because even some of us grow up in homes that are not the best, and some of our friend groups that might be our supports, where to get away from home, and they provide that love and comfort we might not be getting at home. But when our friends are attracted to drinking and want to do that, and that's their sense of fun, it's hard, because then, like you said, you feel peer pressure to be a part of that and want to consume the alcohol, and it's almost like, well, in order to keep this support that I have, I need to do this with my friends. I don't want to lose them because I don't have anybody at home, and I don't want to lose my friends, and I don't want to be alone. You know what I mean? And so it's really powerful that you mentioned that. And for me, if I'm being honest, I think the first time that I tried alcohol was my senior year of high school. And before that, I just had no desire to drink or even want to try it. And but around my junior year, I started going to parties with friends, and I even felt comfortable when they would hand me a drink and like, here, you want to try it? It's not bad, and and I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like I wasn't really embarrassed to say no. I almost felt like empowered, like I'm here for a big party and I'm saying no to this, you know what I mean? And just kind of felt cool or whatever. And it never bothered me. Of course, I'd hear people say this and that, but I guess my senior year just got curious and tried it, and kind of got exposed to that. But definitely can see like the challenges our youth would go through with those types of things, you know what I mean? And also they might say that's fun to do those things, but in the long end, I don't think they're really understanding the effects that it'll have. And that's like another thing too with our youth. Studies shown that our brains don't fully develop until we're 25 years of old, and now studies are even showing that it's 28 years old. And I'm like, dang, when's our brain gonna be done developing? But you're thinking with these younger ones, that front part, I think the prefrontal lobe part, that is a lot about the critical thinking, the way we say no and why we say no. So that part's still being developed, and that's why a lot of our kids deal with these peer pressures, because in a way their brain isn't developed enough to get those things, to understand the things and how to do those things with their brain still growing, So those are many challenges that come with it. But kudos to you for being sober. That's awesome. I know you shared that before, and
Thank you.
Good job. Okay. I'm not sure if we have the PSAs poll ready. We are gonna do a quick PSA shortly for our sponsors that make this amazing podcast happen. We'll do the short video here, and then we'll get started back up with the second part of our show. So So yeah.
Morningstar
just bear with
Counseling
us
is a
for
native and
moment.
woman-owned mental health organization that was established in 2012. Morningstar Counseling incorporates cultural values and practices through prevention, outreach, psychoeducation, and training, and serves individuals and families across the lifespan. The Society of Care is a leading trauma resource for self-identified Native American youth and their families throughout Nebraska. We care for our relatives by providing accessible, affordable, and culturally sensitive behavioral care. As passionate advocates, we give Native youth a voice, connect them to services, provide wellness education, instill cultural pride, and empower them to build resilience. We believe in a brighter future for our relatives and are guided by caring deeply, transforming lives, and healing communities.
My name is Jamasina. I'm the Director of Substance Abuse Prevention for the Society of Care. We serve Indigenous communities throughout the state of Nebraska.
We teach coping skills so that people can navigate through hard times without turning to substances.
Our program focuses on coping strategies and uses culture as prevention, as it is a protective factor.
We also help people in recovery that want to reconnect with their families.
With our program, we really want to encourage families to be active in their child's life and to encourage the bonding with the family to make us stronger tiwahe. The classes that we offer are sewing classes and medicine picking classes, talking circles, and mentoring, and much more to come. If you are looking to get involved, reach out to the Society of Care through our Facebook page or call the Santee Health Center at 402-857-2300. Reach out when you need help. Recovery is for everyone.
He sobered up. He was probably in his 40s. So you know, everybody has their own reasons of why, right? And I think that's a big important thing to do, is to reflect on it and say, well, why are you doing it? Besides the historical trauma that we have, you know, we already have that in our DNA from, you know, several some of our ancestors. And you know, my grandma used to tell me that. She goes, nothing comes good from that. And just seeing it, you know, sometimes it still doesn't stop you from doing it. So I just think it's evil. And our ancestors did not have that. And Indigenous people aren't even built to drink. We're not physically built to drink, and we see all the effects of, you know, for one, you know, you could see some people, they have, it looks like it's acne, but it's not. We all know what that is, right? That's because our body cannot physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually take it. So that's what I think alcohol is. It's evil.
Yeah, one of my aunts, she's like really a big role model for me, and I talk to her about certain things. And you know, when I was younger, in my college years, you know, the parties and drinking was it was crazy, you know. And my relative, my aunt, you know, she would just kind of remind me, just, you know, to keep Creator in my life and to pray. And then, you know, she would also be getting after me about drinking, and that's one of the phrases she would always use is nothing good comes from alcohol. And so I always, you know, when I think about that phrase, I think about her and what that means. And now that I'm older and where I'm at now, I reflect, and I definitely agree with that. Like, there's nothing that stems good from that, and can really change someone into somebody else who they're not, and it could really shift your life in an instant really quick. And so definitely agree with that statement there.
And just to even point it out, like an example, you know, anybody out there, I'm not trying to say anything bad to anybody, but when you know, you go out and party and go to the bars, what happens? What kind of drama happens? You know, like a conversation you might have with your friend, you guys got into it about something. Why? It's because you were drinking. Nothing comes good from that, right? Or, you know, people should really think about, well, why did that happen? You know, well, it was bad luck. No, it was because you were under the influence and you're around all that energy that's negative. So it's going to cause something bad to happen. Maybe you got in a fight, maybe you got arrested. You know, I can go on and on about different examples, but I just wanted to point that out, that it's nothing comes good from it. You may think you're enjoying yourself, or, you know, you deserve a break because you're working all week, you know, or whatever the case is. There's other ways to relieve stress and healthier choices.
Different forms of self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. One thing that really stuck with me, I seen on Facebook, I don't know if it was a meme or a video, but it really kind of stuck with me, and it kind of relates, like, also kind of like on a cultural level too. They say, you know, when you go to like the store or something, the department or the area where the alcohol is, it's called wine and spirits and things like that. And they say, well, why do they call them spirits? You know, what's that about? And then that concept, that video or that post was talking about, it said, you know, these spirits, they go into these bottles or these alcohol containers, and then when you open those and you're consuming them, you're putting that spirit inside your body. And so you're putting so much in your body that you know, when you're drinking so much, you get incoherent, you might black out, you won't remember the night. And they say that's that spirit taking over your body and making you do those things that you typically don't do, and, you know, get into trouble and stuff like that. And then you know, so in a sense you're drinking spirits in a way. But culturally growing up, that's kind of what my older relatives and my elders would tell me too, like, hey, you need to be careful where you go out to, and, you know, and socialize in those areas, because, you know, you go out there, something can latch on to you, and you can bring that back to your home, you can bring it to your family, and that can latch on to your family as well. That could lead into bad mental health, you know, thinking suicide ideation, depression, and things like that. And then also, you know, you go out and you're doing those types of things and you bring it back home, that thing can linger in your home it can disrupt your home, your peace there, and you might have to have someone come in and help you get rid of those bad spirits or vibes there, you know. So those are the things that I kind of remember telling or hearing from my elders, and kind of you know, think about today, or even believe this day. But yeah, I just had to share that. The next question then is, let's talk about your sobriety. So how long have you been sober, and how did your sobriety journey begin?
It's going to be 18 years that I've been sober this coming June. So it's, I will just say the journey didn't start right away. I think the first time that I had a wine cooler, I think I was like 14, and it was bought by a family member. So that's just another thing to point out is, you know, if we want to change in our community, we have to be the change. So I do not and will not buy, you know, underage family members or anybody alcohol, you know, even though you hear people say, well, they're going to do it anyway. Well, if you, no, they won't. If you're going to be a good parent or a good role model, then you should role model that and not be, you know, hypocrite about it. You know, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but that's just my thoughts, that you have to be the change. And that's a big reason why I changed my lifestyle 18 years ago is, you know, I wanted to be a better mom. I wanted to be a better person, you know, a better daughter, niece, granddaughter, all the above. So 14 was the first time. It wasn't like that was an everyday occurrence or something that I did every weekend. It was just, that was my first experience. There was a few times in high school, yes, I did. I lived in Denver for quite some time in my life. I think I was maybe about 11, 12 around that time, until 16. And then moved over this way. My mom wanted to move here. I didn't. Because it, you know, at the time, that's a long time ago. I'm not going to say how old I am, but at the time, there really wasn't a whole lot to do in the community. And, you know, our family would come back for the powwow every single year, and I knew who my relatives were, and sometimes we would stay a week or two. So the whole point is, I really didn't want to be here at that time because it was like, there's nothing to do here. I am a city native. Why are you bringing me here to the reservation? And anybody that knows, the reservation life is way different than being in the city, right? And I made a decision when I did move here, which is kind of the crazy thing, is that I didn't want to drink. So when you guys talk about, you know, the being a youth and whatnot, so I had friends that I knew that drank. We were still cool in school, but then I had another group of people that I spend time with because I knew they were sober. So I want to, you know, point that out, that, you know, it is sometimes hard not to drink because you don't want to lose your friends, but at the same time you have to be courageous and make your own mind up and say, I don't want to do that. You know, and well, then how are you going to continue to grow and to learn? You know, who's your support system? I mean, there's people out there, you know, even adults, that you can talk to. Find somebody, you know, that you look up to and you know that they're sober. You know, I tell that to the youth a lot. You know, I'm willing to talk to you if you want to talk, you know, talk more about what my journey was. But I'm kind of, I guess, getting a little winded here. So then I moved back to Denver. I believe I was maybe 20. And that's kind of where the drinking started again. And it wasn't because it was a big city. You know, I went through some traumatic experiences in my life and repressed those feelings by drinking. So, you know, reflecting on all that, you know, I lost respect for myself. You know, I did things that I'm not proud of, but, you know, I asked the Creator for a second chance. And, you know, you have to forgive yourself for those things. You have to talk to yourself in a more positive way of, you know, I did make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. So then own up to it. And then, you know, it's just, I know it's not easy to heal, but we all have our own healing journeys. I kept on drinking off and on for a little while. I did go to a ceremony in New Mexico. I think I was maybe 23, or I don't know. I was in my mid-20s. And I asked for, some healing and some cleansing. And I was good for a while, but unfortunately, my 2 older boys, I was in a domestic violence relationship. So with not really considering that's the reason why sometimes I wanted to, have a few every now and again. That was the reason why. And I kind of talked about that a bit ago, is you need to know what is triggering that. Why is it that you're drinking? Why are you suppressing those feelings? Because we're human. A lot of people, don't really put in consideration that we're a lot more powerful than we think. We can make anything happen. One person, you can make that happen if you really want it to be true. And so, then make it happen. The only person that's stopping it is you, is yourself. So I fled that relationship. I was probably in that for about 5 years. And what I mean fled is the relationship I had was the worst relationship ever. Made me feel my self-esteem was low. I did not have any good feelings for myself whatsoever, because when you're in that relationship and you think that person loves you and they're telling you things about yourself, you kind of get close to thinking, well, maybe he is right. He loves me. He would tell me things like, you're dumb the way you're thinking, and he would tell me that almost every day, that I was dumb. So I started kind of almost believing that. And I'm just getting more in depth into why, I continue to drink, is because of that. And it was mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, like everything you could possibly think of, I went through with that man, and it was bad. So I took all the courage that I had, and had my 2 boys. They're pretty young at the time, probably 6 months and 2.5 years, and came here. I came back here. So I would say, like, the first year that I came back, feeling like dirt, because of some of the things that I've done in the past. And I thought it was okay to drink. In the community, it was accepted. Well, you worked all week, you need a break, you're a single mom, like all those things. And I had one person, I'm probably going to be answering some of those questions that you have on here. I had somebody, my Dega, Scott Snake, maybe some of you guys might know who that is, but he did have a dream, and he told me that he was going to help me in some aspect. And he also told me when he saw me, he could tell that my spirit was beaten. So when you talk about support, he was that person. I didn't start my sobriety right off the bat. So that first year, I drank almost every single weekend. And then he told me one time, he said, when you're ready to quit drinking, you let me know. And I remember making that phone call. It was in June, 18 years ago. I told him, and he got a Native American church meeting ready for me. So I'm gonna have to take a break really quick.
Take your time. Like I said, these conversations are intense, and I appreciate your vulnerability and just being willing to share, and just love that you're sharing this, and any words that you're saying right now, if it could, have a positive impact on someone and their journey, or help them, uplift them. Like they might even be going through something similar that you went through, and some of the words might even just empower them to begin that healing journey, that sobriety journey. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah. So he got everything ready. I didn't have to worry about anything, and I did have family there. And my 2 boys, they were at that time under 5 years old, and they were in their praying with me. My family was in there praying with me, and a lot of people from the community that I had no idea that would even be there. So all those prayers still continue on, because I have not drank or wanted to step off the red road because of those prayers. And it was so special to me. Like, I could still think about it if I close my eyes. I remember I was praying so hard, and Scott really started singing this, like, the most beautiful song in the world. And it was like night and day. Like, I saw, like, I couldn't think straight. It was just like gray and cloudy is the best way that I can think about it. And he said that like afterwards, he said he knew that I was fighting with my demons. And then all of a sudden it was just like, what was I thinking? Like, why was I doing that? Like, it was just completely gray to something beautiful. And then it just seemed like it was, after that, I was good. And that was like in the middle of the night. So, you know, that's how I sobered up, was Native American church meeting. You know, we did take in the medicine of peyote, and like I said, ever since then, those prayers still continue on. So that's how it stopped.
So I thank you for sharing that. I love that you brought that story to this conversation, because then I think a big part of our sobriety can come from our cultural practices and doings and things like that. And so thanks for sharing that. But one thing that I wanted to circle back with, and that's kind of one of the questions we want to ask too, was what are some of the challenges of practicing sobriety? And I asked that because you kind of touched on it a little bit, but you said, you know, owning your actions or owning your mistakes and understand that and accept that and move on. And I think too, like, one of the challenges that some of our relatives go through is when they do make that sobriety journey, they still have, like, I don't want to say skeletons in their closet, but, you know, ghosts from the past. Like, they might be trying to be sober and healing and being on that journey of recovery, but you've still let down and hurt some people in the past. And I think during your sobriety journey, you got to understand and have those supports in place, because some of those things might come back when you're trying to be better. And sometimes I feel like those are those negative forces trying to bring you back to that road of alcohol, you know what I mean? And so understanding that some of those things that you did in the past, yeah, those happened, but, you know, you was in a different mindset, different place as a person in that time, and you're gonna have those moments where people are gonna call you out on stuff like that. And so it's important to have those supports when that does happen, or that understanding, like, I was a different person then and I'm changing now. Because I feel like that is another factor that brings our relatives back to alcohol. Is like, well, gee, everybody keeps saying I did this and I was a bad person and I left my kids here, or this happened. And that comes back to, like, the negative self-talk. If you keep telling yourself that, you keep hearing that, you're going to believe that, you're going to condition your mind for that, and then you're going to go back to your previous habits, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of breaking those thinking methods and having a better mind and reframing and a mind frame for those things, whatever. So I guess just answering that question, like, what do you think are some challenges to being sober?
Well, it's easy now, but, you know, in the beginning, of course, you had to put in that work. You know, I did ask the Creator for a second chance in life, right? But you have to put in that work. And what I mean by that is, for 3 months, every weekend, I felt like I was hanging over, even though I wasn't drinking. And it sucked. Like, every weekend, I'm like, oh, I felt like I drank. And of course, you know, some people are going to say, well, if I already feel like that, why don't I just drink? But I really honestly believe I still had all those prayers and the Creator working with me and not against me, because it didn't make me say, oh, forget it, you know, I'm just gonna start drinking again. And when you talk about family, yes, they did support my sobriety, but, you know, I had to earn their trust back. And for me, that was hard, you know, thinking, like, I really let my family down, because I was gone those weekends, and who was watching my kids? It was my family, you know. So that part was hard as well. But I was so determined of having a better life for my kids, because my 2 boys, I mean, it's all they have is me, you know. That was like a big part of the aha moment, is before, you know, I had that Native American church meeting was, your boys only have you. That's it. Nobody else, you know, is going to do this but you. You're their mom.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, family and feeling, you know, of course, ashamed of some of the things that you do. You have to forgive yourself. You have to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's hard,
Mm-hmm.
but you do.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's not going to love you better than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it comes with saying, you know what, yeah, I do own up to my mistakes. Yeah, I did do that. But I'm changing my life, and I would appreciate your support in helping me do that.
Right.
So, like, and what I mean by the trust part is, you know, I would say, well, you know, can you babysit? I want to go here. And they're like, well, how do I really know you're going to come back?
Right.
So I get it. You know, I understand that part of it. And I just want to let everybody know that don't be so hard on yourself. You know, if you are on your red road and you want to continue to stay sober and sometimes you fall off, it's okay. It doesn't happen the first time. You have to work through it. Mm-hmm. And you have to find out, you know, who's really going to support you, who are your friends. If your friends are the ones that are drinking too, I'm sorry, you're going to have to get rid of those friends. You have to surround yourself with people that you want to be like, or something that's going to help better you and support you in your sobriety journey.
I always like to highlight my dad in these conversations. My dad, he'll be 6 years sober in September. But I always like to reflect on his journey too, because some of the things that you're saying, he said before too. And, you know, he struggled with drug abuse, but, you know, he's doing really great now. But that was one of the things he said too, was one of the things that helped me was changing my friends, my settings. Like I realized I can't go back to that same group because they're doing what they're doing, and what they're doing isn't going to help my sobriety. So he said, set that boundary, put them to a distance, you know what I mean? And at first he, you know, was setting those boundaries and wasn't hanging out with them as much, or kind of to a distance. And then it shifted into, well, I don't see the point of hanging out. They quit, you know, talking to him, or quit coming to him because he wasn't doing those things anymore. You know what I mean? So eventually those relationships faded away. And so that's when something that he said too was just changing those environments. And that is tough, because maybe some of those people that are in those environments, like, they mean well, but they've got some healing that they need to do too. And their hurting might spill over to your hurting, you know what I mean? And so it's not that you don't care for them, it's just going to help you in the long run and setting those boundaries. That's why it's important, you know? So definitely agree with that, and think that's important too.
Yeah.
So with that then, what is... You touched on it slightly, maybe emphasize a little bit more on it. What is your advice for relatives that are struggling with alcohol but want to become sober? What is your words of wisdom for that?
I would really emphasize the spirituality part of it, and, you know, our culture and traditions. I'm really sure that there's quite a few other people, whether, you know, they do sweats. I know people do sweats here. Native American church, those types of things help. I would also consider talking with, you know, a counselor, because your thoughts could be all over the place, but they have this way of putting it in perspective. Okay, these are the list of things that you need to do to accomplish what it is that you really want. And it helps to have somebody that is sober that's going to continue to support you regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say that the self-care is a big must. So what that looks like to everybody, it's all different, but I would also say that having a healthy lifestyle, like, what is the intake of food that you're doing? Because that is a big portion of that's supposed to be fuel. It's not supposed to continue to make you feel like crap. So diet, exercise, you know, sometimes it might be hard to get back into it, but even just taking walks every day, be in Mother Nature, you know, that gives you the time to reflect on things and get away from everything for a little bit and just put yourself in the grounding part of it. Even, you know, step outside in the grass for a little bit. There's all different kind of things that you can do, you know, meditate, you know, whatever your ability is for exercising, just go with it. Just take a walk. I mean, you know, go out there and get a gym partner, or, you know, go to the powwows, dance, even do round dance if you don't know how to do any of the other dances, fancy shawl, you know, or fancy and traditional and all those other things. That helps as well. Or even listening to, you know, Native American church songs, listen to powwow songs, things like that. It's going to help. I know it's healing in itself. So that was something that I know that kept me, I guess, more positive, as being by the drum, dancing. I stepped away from it because, you know, I knew I was in the wrong of, you know, doing substance abuse and drinking, and I was taught at a very young age that you do not bring that into the circle. If you're going to wear your feathers and your eagle plumes, you do not wear that. You cannot bring that to other people. So, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to still work on myself, is getting back into that. It's just been so long that there's other even layers that I'm not going to go into that is keeping me from fancy shawl dancing again. But, you know, eventually I know that's a part of my healing as well. Like I said, you know, everybody has their own healing journeys, and it has something to do with other things. And so those are things that I would say would help. And like we said, you know, we kind of all agreed that who are you having in your day-to-day conversations, or who's around you, what your friends are, because energy is a big factor. If we have people that are negative, even though they seem like they're your friends, they're still going to bring you down in some way. You know, you might have haters or whatever it is. You want to be around positive people. And I'm going to be honest, that's hard for me to find now too. I have a really small circle of people. Sometimes it is, you know, I feel alone, but I know what I'm doing. I know who I am. And I do my best to be a really good role model for this community, for the youth, for my kids especially, and enjoy inspiring and motivating people. I've done a lot of different things. I mean, you already know that, but I think trying to find what it is that makes you happy, a healthy, happy, not...
Right.
I mean, you know, alcohol it could possibly make you happy for a little bit, but I think finding what really makes you happy. And if you need to journal, write it down, like, because I'm just thinking about some of the thoughts that I had about myself, my negative thoughts. You write it down, let it go. You know, tear up the paper, throw it in trash, do what it is, whatever you want, right, and ask for forgiveness.
To add into that, you know, advice, I would say, if, you know, for anyone wanting to be sober, you know, celebrate the small wins that you have and accomplish. Even the big ones. Don't ever look for validation from anybody else, because it's your journey. It's not anybody else's.
Right.
And always remember that you're doing it for yourself. You don't gotta people please anybody on your journey. It's all about you. This is, I feel like, you know, your sobriety, your red road is a chance at, like how she said, a second chance at life. Like, you get to figure out all the new things that you want to do, that you've been wanting to try, because you don't have to be described by the mistakes that you made. You know, like she said, like, accept them, move past it. There's nothing that we can change. We don't have a time machine to go back and be like, I don't want to do this. But I would just say celebrate your small wins always. You know, talk about your sobriety. I made it to a week. You know, you don't like, celebrate anything that makes you feel good on your red road, because, you know, like I said, it's yours. What you do with it, how you do it, it's you. It's not anybody else's journey. If you have to do it 5 times to get it right, you know, that's okay. It's your journey. And that's all I have to add to that?
I really like that you shared that, like, it's, you know, not to have anybody validate who you are, because it's your own personal journey. Because, like, you know, Michelle was saying her journey looked different. You know, Felicia here, she's saying her journey's different, your journey's different, you know what I mean? And so I think coming back to understand, like, it's for you, I think that's a big important factor to it too. And I can't say I'm sober on that, but one way that I reflect on that and kind of relate to that is growing up, you know, both my parents were drug addicts. And so there was a time when I was in high school, I was like, man, I wished I had these amazing parents that were supportive and there, and just sober parents. And wanted that, you know, that I wish, you know, that's kind of life was like. But as I got older and reflect back and seeing a journey, those challenges that I went through with my parents, those tough times, like, built me into the character I am now. If I didn't have those challenges or those moments, I don't think I would be the person I am today and doing the work that I've done and the influences that I'm making. And so in a way, I'm like, it sounds dumb, but thanks for being drug addicts, because it made me into like a strong person to help others through those journeys too. But I think that kind of relates back to what you're both talking about, is like, you went through those hard times, but it also made you into the strong women that you are today, you know. And so reflecting on those and kind of having a positive spin on that, like, unfortunately that happened, but I went through that to be the person I am now. And then the knowledge and the knowledge and trials that you all went through, you can share others that are going through that. You can provide that guidance and support for them if they're going through that, to help them better their lives too. So thanks for sharing that. We do have one more question here, because I feel like you hit a lot of them, which is good. I'm nothing wrong with that. We're really flexible here. But what did your mindset look like during the use of alcohol versus living in sobriety? How did that mindset look then compared to now?
I guess part of it would be not completely having a clear mindset with, you know, having that addiction of, okay, I'm going to work for the rest of the week and I have something to look forward to. Friday, I get to go out, have fun and party and whatnot. And we know that's not a healthy mindset. That's not something you should be looking forward to, because you're hurting yourself, right? You're abusing your body by putting and intaking poison. That's what it is, right? And I think a part of it too was my self-confidence. You know, if it's a depressant, so how are you supposed to feel good about yourself if you're doing that? Because when that weekend comes, you're gonna do some foolish things, right? Might say some foolish things, you might do foolish things. So that is not gonna help anybody's self-confidence. That's not a positive mindset to have about yourself. Always feeling ashamed, or, oh, you know, I did this, I did that. So that would be a big part of what it was like during drinking, is having an end goal of, oh yes, Friday I get to go drink. And of course now, you know, it's different. You know, Friday is like, okay, yeah, I get to rest.
Right. You get to sleep in. Yeah.
You get to sleep in.
Lounge around.
Yep. And of course, you know, you got housework, and I have kids and things like that you have to take care of. But with my age, different things have changed, of course. But I have a different mindset of, okay, I'm going to go to CrossFit 3 times a week. And I do. It's tough. It's really hard. It's like, I
commend you for that.
It's one of the hardest workouts or anything that I've done. And I've done a lot of different sports, and but yeah, it's make me want to challenge myself more. I have different goals each year that I want to do, and I do them. So there's a lot of different things that I'm proud to say that I've achieved, even though I'm, you know, a certain age. I'm in my mid-40s.
I heard that's the new 30s, though.
I'll say when I turned 40, I felt the new 20. I really did. I really felt amazing. And something that doesn't really get talked about a lot is when you hit a certain age, your mindset does change, but so does like the inside, like your hormones and stuff change. So I know that's a big reason why I'm not doing what I did when I was 40. I was training to box, I was doing taekwondo, softball, volleyball, circuit workouts. I don't have that type of energy anymore. And it has nothing to do with my food intake, it's just my body's changing. So
yeah, I like that too. And then one word that I always like to use is reframing your thinking. So just thinking these are new opportunities for you, another chapter in your life. Because then I used to kind of say that to my friends, like, man, I'm getting old, and it's da-da-da-da, but it's like, one, you still got years, dude. Hang out, you know what I mean? You got time. But two, I think we need to be fortunate too, because sometimes we don't make it past these certain ages. You know what I mean? Some of our relatives pass away at a young age, or they develop some kind of illness that doesn't allow them to live and do the things that we do now. Yeah, we might take for granted. So just kind of reframing your thinking and understanding where you're at in your life, and some of the blessings that you have and the opportunities you have might be different from somebody else. So yeah, but all right, well, that is it for questions. We do have just our closing conclusions and shout outs now. So if either of you have any shout outs, any last words to share, anything like that, go ahead and feel free to share those.
I did all my shout outs last time.
Okay. If you want to see your shout outs, go to the last episode.
It was just to my baby, that's it.
That's sweet.
I will give a shout out to my family. All my family has been very supportive of everything that I do, and especially my kids. I want to give a shout out to my kids. I really appreciate my kids. They've gotten me this far. I don't know if I say it enough to them, but if it wasn't for my two older boys, I probably wouldn't be here. So they were definitely a blessing in disguise. Grateful for them, and I hope they know how much I love them. And my two younger kids as well, some of the things that kids notice, it's amazing. It really is. I really have good kids, and I hope all my kids, my younger kids, know how much I love them as well. And I appreciate my job. I appreciate all the community members that have the positive things to say to me. They notice the work that I do. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you for letting me share my story. And yeah, I hope that I've helped somebody, because that's like my mission, is if I could help just one person, whether it's get through past that domestic violence relationship or substance abuse, alcohol abuse, continue your education. Yeah. You want to reach out to me, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
I'll give a shout out to my mom. She's just my favorite person in the world.
Hey, you gotta use somebody else. You used her last time. Nah, I'm just kidding.
I actually do want to do a shout out, and it's just to all those sober Indigenous people out there. Shout out to you guys. We are very proud of you. And shout out to my mom.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think you highlight your mom all the time, so I just had to tease you for that. She's really,
she's my favorite.
yeah, she's an amazing woman. Yeah, well, thank you too for spending time with us, sharing your thoughts, being vulnerable. Like Felicia said, I think you definitely both used some of the words you shared. Definitely put some perspective into my life, but also I'm sure that happened with some of our viewers and listeners too. So thank you for being here and sharing your stories and being here with us. And as always, Shailece, thanks for helping putting this together and co-host, and also the amazing person behind scene that's making all these frames and videos and everything come up. Big shout out to Bethany and her team at the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska Communications Department. Appreciate all the work y'all do. It takes a lot to make this amazing podcast happen, and you're a big part of it, so thank you for that. Also, thank you to our sponsors for Society of Care and Morningstar Counseling for making this amazing podcast happen. We look forward to more episodes and in the coming months. As always, we try to do our shows the first Monday of each month. Unfortunately, we just had some difficulties last week that we couldn't do last Monday, but next month we'll be aiming for the first Monday in May. And so stay tuned for that, and thank you for tuning in, and take care of each other, be nice to each other, and we'll see you for the next episode.
Morningstar Counseling is a Native and woman-owned mental health organization that was established in 2012. Morningstar Counseling incorporates cultural values and practices through prevention, outreach, psychoeducation, and training, and serves individuals and families across the lifespan. The Society of Care is a leading trauma resource for self-identified Native American youth and their families throughout Nebraska. We care for our relatives by providing accessible, affordable, and culturally sensitive behavioral care. As passionate advocates, we give Native youth a voice, connect them to services, provide wellness education, instill cultural pride, and empower them to build resilience. We believe in a brighter future for our relatives and are guided by caring deeply, transforming lives, and healing communities.
My name is Jamasina. I'm the Director of Substance Abuse Prevention for the Society of Care. We serve Indigenous communities throughout the state of Nebraska.
We teach coping skills so that people can navigate through hard times without turning to substances.
Our program focuses on coping strategies and uses culture as prevention, as it is a protective factor.
We also help people in recovery that want to reconnect with their families.
With our program, we really want to encourage families to be active in their child's life and to encourage the bonding with the family to make us stronger tiwahe. The classes that we offer are sewing classes and medicine picking classes, talking circles, and mentoring, and much more to come. If you are looking to get involved, reach out to the Society of Care through our Facebook page or call the Santee Health Center at 402-857-2300. Reach out when you need help. Recovery is for everyone.